Thanks everybody for joining us today. Really appreciate you joining us and your interest in being with us next week for our Day of Action at the State House. Also with us is Macy from DSI, Rachel from um, Autism Society of Indiana, and Katie and Mike from INSILC. Very much appreciate just the collaboration of all of us coming together during this important time to really make sure that people are engaging with their legislators the best that they can. We decided to put together this little tutorial because we were just getting a lot of questions about just some of the details of the day and the best way to have a successful time at the State House. And so we thought doing a webinar and a conversation like this would be the best way to get information out. Hopefully, if you know about this, you also know about the page on our website that just gives some details about parking, about going through security, food, all of those things. But we're going to touch on all of those a little bit today. Um, Katie and Mike, I told Rachel and Macy earlier, I'm going to kind of go through some things. Please don't hesitate to chime in to either correct something I misstated or to add something that I didn't. So it'll be an informal conversation. So first and foremost, our day at the State House is next Thursday, which is January 29th, 9 o'clock until 2 o'clock. Uh, the biggest thing you should know is going to be a very busy day at the State House. That is third reading deadlines, which means that is when House bills get voted by the House, Senate bills get voted on the Senate. So the hallways will be very crowded because there will be a lot of lobbyists there watching their bills kind of move through the process. It will also mean that most legislators will be there because they want to be recording their votes. However, it might be really hard for them to take the time to move off of the floor to come outside and talk. So it's going to be really important for you to make appointments with your legislators before you get there. So some of the details is we will have tables set up in the south atrium of the State House. So when you enter the State House, you will either enter off of the main entrance, which is the entrance on Market Street. The south entrance is the one to the left, right? So towards Washington Street, that's the south entrance. If you need an accessible entrance, you will need to go around to that Senate Street entrance. So keep that in mind. If you don't need an accessible entrance, just keep in mind there are a lot of steep steps going up to this west entrance. Please keep in mind too that you will be going through security. So do not have any weapons. You're allowed to bring in drinks and all of those things. That's not a problem at all. But they do take the weapons pretty seriously. So just be mindful of that. We've had people be stopped before for scissors. So really, it cannot be anything sharp. So again, keep that in mind. We'll talk just a second about parking. Parking in downtown Indianapolis is hard to find and it's expensive. I do not know at this time, so if somebody does know, please chime in, what parking is like over at the mall. So Circle Center Mall is closed for business right now. That is generally where we used to send people to find parking because it was inexpensive. There are multiple hotel parking garages around the State House vicinity, but they are expensive. And they don't all accommodate accessible vans or large vehicles. So keep that in mind. There is a lot of street parking. It's hit and miss. So you might get lucky, but you also might have to walk a couple of blocks to get to the State House. Most of the parking you can get for 3 to 4 hour increments. So hopefully that will get you through the day. If you have the mobile parking app, that will certainly help you be able to refill your meter if you're there for longer periods of time. That's really the best advice I have on parking. There's also parking over, it's further west to the Idle Jordan Museum, the State Museum. It's a longer walk. but it too is typically a little bit less expensive than what you would find at the hotel. So you're really just going to have to drive around, see what's available, and hope that you are able to secure a parking space.
And through the renovations, Circle Center Mall should be open. Their garages, their parking garages, so that should be open.
Thank you, Macy, for adding that.
I'll just add one more thing as well. So, same way of planning ahead for legislator visits, I think you can plan ahead for parking as well. So, on our website, there's a few websites that you can utilize. Spot Hero and ParkWiz are places that you can prepay and pre-find where you're going to park, and hopefully they'll have the details of the accessible and whatnot. Kim mentioned Park Mobile. That's for largely street parking around the State House. But all of those may be something to explore in advance to have a better plan than trying to get around downtown because it is difficult to find some.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you. So when you get to the State House, again, we will have tables set up on the third floor. On those tables will be information not just about our organizations, but we will have talking points of key pieces of legislation. We will have picture books that you will be able to at least look. If you don't know who your or what your legislator looks like, you'll at least be able to look them up in a book. Hopefully, get a good idea of what they look like. So if you see them in the hallway or if they come out to find you, you will be able to recognize them. We will also be providing water as well. So, please feel free to bring your own beverages. That if you need a bottle of water, we will have that there as well. We are not providing lunch. So there are a couple of different places close by to get lunch if you want to take a lunch break. You can certainly walk over to the government center, get into the cafeteria there. You will have to go through security again. So again, just keep that in mind that once you get into the State House, it doesn't get you over to the government center as well. You will have to leave the State House to get into the government center. There's also a Subway close by. There's a Jimmy John's that delivers all of those things, and we can help you kind of navigate some of those deliveries if that's what you decide to do there. There's also a Lincoln Park, which is a breakfast lunch place that is right across the street, very easy to get in and out of, and just has a very broad menu if that's what you're looking for that day. When you come to the State House, we really, really, really encourage you all to get in contact with your legislators to let them know you're coming. So you can do that a variety of different ways. We strongly suggest emailing them to let them know that you're coming. If you can set up an appointment with them, you should try to do that. You should also know too, if you don't have a specific piece of legislation that you're following and that you want to talk about, this is a very good time for you to just introduce yourself to your legislator and start building that relationship. You don't have to talk about a bill on this day of action to make it effective for you. So again, just getting to know your legislators is equally as important, and this is a good day to start doing that as well. I did drop in the chat that hopefully you can see some of the details that will help you set up meetings with your legislators. So this first 800 number is for the Senate. So 1-800-382-9467. That is the number you can call. A receptionist will answer the phone. They'll say Indiana State Senate, and you say, I'm trying to get a hold of Senator Baldwin to set up a meeting. They will then connect you to his office so that you can talk to his legislative assistant and hopefully set up a meeting. They might also give you an email address that you could send a letter just in case you're not able to get the meeting. If they tell you that he won't have time that day for a meeting, then it is completely appropriate for you to say, okay, I am going to be at the State House that day. I might go ahead and just try to grab him in the hallway. Will that be an issue? And then they will probably say, well, it's third reading deadline. It's going to be really hard for him to get off the floor. But yes, feel free to do that. And that's completely fine. That's what happens every single day. But try to get a meeting if you can. If they say that they won't set up a meeting, let them know that you're going to be in person that day anyway. and see what happens then. For the House, again, call that same, or it's a different 800 number to kind of go through that same process. Ask for a meeting. If they don't set you up with a meeting, let them know you're going to be there in person and you're going to try to get a hold of them. You can also email if you're not comfortable with making phone calls. For Senate emails, you will need to know the district number of your legislators. So what this means is, say your senator is in or in Senate District 2. So this would be S2 at iga.in.gov. And the same for your House member. If your House district is 98, it would be H98 at iga.in.gov. So you will need to find out who your legislators are. Again, you can do that on any of our websites. You can also do that at in.gov. Go in, put in your physical address, and then it will pop up who your state legislator is and your state senator. Please keep in mind that these are your state officials. So you won't be able to meet with Congressman Carson. You won't be able to meet with Senator Banks or Senator Young. This is solely for your state House of Representative and your state senator for these meetings. The other thing, again, I would say is if you have a specific bill or an issue that you're going to want to talk to your legislator about, and you want help coming up with talking points, I would really recommend you reach out to us in advance and see how we might be able to help you come up with those talking points. I know for the ARC of Indiana, we will have our key talking points for our primary pieces of legislation. We just learned today that another primary piece of our legislation, House Bill 1012, is not going to be moving forward. That doesn't mean that the issues inside that bill are dead. It just means that that bill number is dead. So we will be kind of updating our talking points of some of the provisions within that bill that we would like to try to keep moving this legislative session. And we'll kind of walk through the process of that all in our talking points as well. So if there was something specific in House Bill 1012 that you felt strongly about, please reach out to us. We can give you an update on that specific provision, what may or may not happen with that for the remainder of the session, and then we can help you craft some talking points as you talk to legislators on those issues. We will also know by the time that we get together next Thursday, there's going to be a lot of bills die by Monday afternoon. So Monday is the deadline for bills to move out of committee. So there are a lot of bills kind of hanging out there right now. We will do our best to give you an up-to-date listing of bills still alive on Thursday. Because on Wednesday, I believe it's Wednesday, is our second reading deadline. So bills are going to be, really kind of dropping off and dying on Monday and then again on Tuesday or on Wednesday. So we will try to do our best to have an up-to-date list for you on Thursday morning. Again, if you have a specific bill that you're following, stay in touch with us and we can kind of give you that information as we know it. Is there anything that I'm forgetting to talk about? Macy, go ahead and.
No, I was going to say as well, within our table, we will have some one-pagers. If you do get to the State House early, which I highly recommend you getting there early just to sit down, grab materials before your meeting. We'll also have a one-pager too that you can customize if you wish, just sharing your story and more about yourself. I think it's always helpful to leave behind information about you and your story. So we'll have some that you can in real time fill out and we can walk through maybe some things that might be helpful and pieces of that.
Yeah. So one thing to keep in mind is there is not a formal event taking place on the 29th. So there will not be a podium. You won't have any speakers or anything like that. So there will be several of us kind of in that area on the south atrium of the State House on the third floor that will be available to answer any questions you have, share with you these talking points, walk you through kind of what to expect as you go in to meet with your legislators. A couple of other details I wanted to share. So the House of Representatives that morning will be convening at 10 o'clock. The Senate is expected to convene at 1:30. So there will be some times, right, for legislators to get together with you. You are free to invite them to come down to the south atrium of the third floor to meet with you there, or you can meet with them in their office, whatever is most comfortable for you and that they're willing to do. With the Senate not going into the afternoon, the morning will be a really good time to try to get meetings with them. The House again will start meeting early in the morning, and their schedule is likely to be long, so they'll be there into the afternoon. So it'll be a good long set of hours that you will have a chance to get a hold of your members. In front of each chamber is desks. So there are what we call doormen who work the doors of each chamber in the House and Senate. Those doormen on their desks have note cards. You can fill out a note card and ask them to take it to your House of Representative member or your state senator. And then that would let them know that you are there and that you would like to talk to them. Sometimes they come out really fast. Sometimes they don't come out at all. So again, I would really recommend that if you haven't made an appointment or if you ended up not being able to make an appointment and had to just say, I'm going to be there and we'll try to, grab the senator or member during the course of session. That's how you will do that. You will utilize those storemen to write a note, take those note cards in and see if they'll come out. We can again talk to you about what to put on that note card. Always, if you can share that you're a constituent and you're there for the day, that usually is what they want to see, and that will get them to come out faster because again, they don't always have visitors from their district coming to see them. So if you remind them that you're a constituent and you're there to specifically see them, that usually will prompt them to come out a little bit faster.
I also wanted to mention as well, if they say your representative is busy, but they could meet with a legislative assistant or aide, that's definitely take that meeting 100%. I think it's so important that the entire team knows your story and knows your information, and they'll take that back to your representative as well.
Yes, never hesitate to just meet with somebody from their office. Again, this is the day that you're trying to build relationships and make connections. The people that you will meet with will share all the information that you give them and will listen to everything that you have to say and relay that back. So thank you, Macy, for doing that. I think we have this set up that we can't. I do have a question. Great. So there is a question about the weather. If we would decide to cancel, we will let you know. We know that it's supposed to be cold and very frigid this weekend and into early next week. The reality is legislators will be there regardless. So they don't go home. So they will be there. If the cold doesn't keep you away, right? So certainly if it's bad roads, right? We don't want anybody to risk their safety by, traveling on hazardous roads. The cold will not keep us away. But certainly bad roads will. So we will let you know as soon as possible if we would make a change, but it's highly unlikely that we will make the change unless there is some type of an emergency travel statement that keeps us from getting on the roads. You are free to bring a folding chair if you'd like. There is a whole lot of sitting around and waiting at the State House, unfortunately. There are some wooden benches that's available, but there will not be enough. So if you want to bring a folding chair, we encourage you to do so. This is absolutely an inside event. We are not holding anything outside. So please come through the security guard or security doors and enter the State House and come up to the third floor. If you want to, again, get some talking points and kind of gather with us kind of informally. Um, we can talk about some bills here in a second. And Tom, I'm going to probably shoot that over to you because you probably have a list probably more readily available than I do at the moment. So we will talk here in a second just about some very specific bills. Again, we cover a lot of bills that we're monitoring. That doesn't mean that we have talking points on all of them. So if there is a specific bill that you're interested in, let us know and we can either work with you to come up with some talking points or work on some talking points to get out to you. Okay. That's all I'm seeing in the questions for right now. Tom, hopefully that gave you a little bit of time to kind of bring up our list to kind of
Yeah.
talk through a few things. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, we can I'll briefly go over at least the ones that the Arc of Indiana is going to have some talking points on. As Kim mentioned, so we have three main bills that we're kind of priority bills that we're pushing this session. As Kim mentioned about an hour and a half ago, we learned that 1012 will not be getting a Ways and Means hearing on Monday, so that one is effectively dead by number. But we will still have an updated one pager on some of the concepts that are in there. So some of the things that we think are going to push forward and hopefully try to find a new home from House Bill 1012 was which was our kind of Medicaid transparency and accountability bill. What we think may hopefully survive from that are a couple concepts where one, an individual recipient of Medicaid home and community-based services can request a statement of services rendered from their provider, so they can actually get the details from the provider on what services are being provided, so they can be better informed in the care and the person-centered care that they have. So if they want to be prepared, for instance, for a quarterly case management meeting or an annual case management meeting, they can request that information from the provider and have that information. There will also be hopefully, in addition, that once an individual does request that information, if they happen to see any discrepancies or errors, that they bring those to the state and let them know that there are, or to the provider and let them know that there are some errors within that. The other piece that we think is an important aspect that we're going to try to pull out, with the caveat that I think all of House Bill 1012 is important. Another piece that we're wanting to pull out and find another home for is the requirement that when the state makes a eligibility denial for Medicaid, that they provide the specific reason for the denial. Right now, that's not happening. And so even if someone elects to go to an administrative appeal to argue against the eligibility, they don't know why it was denied. It could have been an administrative error, but they don't know, and they don't know what to argue against. Also related to that is when sometimes the state will look at an individual's assets to determine if they are under the asset threshold, if they don't have too much money. In doing so, they review bank accounts and how much money are in bank accounts. And sometimes the eligibility is denied based on having too much in a bank account, but then the individual is like, well, I don't even have that bank account, or that bank account's outdated, the information is. So there's a requirement in there that when the state is denying based on those bank account reviews, they include information about the bank accounts they looked at. So what the financial institution is, the last four of the account number, kind of check their work and make sure the individuals can kind of, defend that and say this is accurate or this isn't accurate. So those are the pieces from House Bill 1012 that we're hoping will come out and survive and find a new home, that we're already actively working on. But we're still early in the very, very fast session. So we're optimistic that we can find something, whether it be on this side or on the other side and on the Senate side. But we'll have talking points on those. The other one, which just passed third reading today, so it's passed the House as of about an hour ago, half hour ago, and moves to the Senate side, is House Bill 1102. And that one is for kiddos who are in intensive ABA therapy outside of school, and they're wanting to transition back into school. We've heard many situations where that transition does not go well, depending on the school and the school district. And so we're hoping to make that transition better. And so if a child is receiving ABA therapy from a licensed BCBA or RBT, and they are identifying the need for that ABA in an IEP or a 504 plan as they're transitioning back into school, then the school has to allow that BCBA, the therapist that they're utilizing for ABA, to come into the school on a transitional period. So no less than 30 days, no more than 90 days, so that they can provide those transitional services to help that transition go smoothly. There's a lot of protections for the school in there, making sure they're not the payer of those, they're not employing the therapist. There's necessary background checks, things like that. But it passed the House Education Committee unanimously 10-0. It passed the House today, I think, unanimously 90-0. So it's looking good, and it's a good addressing a gap that's currently existing on that transition to hopefully make that transition to school services easier. And then the last priority bill that we'll have talking points on is House Bill 1432. And this actually involves the death penalty in individuals with an intellectual disability. So it has been the policy of the state of Indiana since the early 90s to not subject someone who's been identified as having an intellectual disability to the death penalty in criminal cases. But right now, the law is that they have to raise that very quickly and in a very limited window where a defense attorney may not know to raise it. And if they don't do that timely, they've effectively waived that argument and they can't get the protections under the law. We're just simply trying to fix that. That if it is the policy properly to not subject people with an intellectual disability to the death penalty, let's make sure we're not doing that. So the current draft of 1432 that passed the Courts and Criminal Code Committee unanimously 13-0 would require that when a death penalty case is filed by the state, there's an automatic review for intellectual disability that happens. So we're making sure that if that's truly the policy in practice, that's actually what's happening. So we're not losing anybody falling through the gaps there. So again, passed the House committee unanimously. It went through second reading today. We'll have third reading early next week before it hopefully switches over to the Senate. We are still working with some stakeholders and some interested parties on seeing if there needs to be tweaks to that language, and we'll see what happens there. But we're pleased with where the language is now. But again, those are the three that we will have talking points. Additionally, if you're interested in other bills, if you aren't already signed up for the ARC of Indiana's legislative updates that go out every Friday, I would highly, highly encourage you to do so. We talk about our priority bills, but also some other bills of interest. And then we'll also have a long list of all the bills until Monday when some of them die and that list gets smaller. That may bring up some other bills of interest that you may be interested in. That'd be a really good source to review in advance of next week to see if there's anything else that you want to talk to your legislators about.
I want to mention just a couple of other bills. So I know that in one of our memos, we talked about House Bill 1003. That is a bill that is from the governor's office to really streamline some of the boards and commissions and councils that the state has. The bill, as it was introduced, did eliminate the DDRS Advisory Council. We were able to get that amended this week in committee. So the DDRS Advisory Council lives on. So far, that council is not eliminated. It does move the Seclusion and Restraint Commission into and I always get the title wrong, so forgive me, but it's the Special Education Advisory Council for Children with Disabilities, I think is the title. So it moves seclusion and restraint in there. There's a lot of other commissions and everything that moves there. It's a very, very big bill, but those are some key elements of that bill that touches upon us. 1004 is a various education matters. There's a lot of stuff in there. It too talks a little bit about some seclusion and restraint issues, does not change the statute at all. So we're watching that. Kind of scrolling through our bills that are moving. There are a couple.
If I
Go
can just
ahead.
mention on 10, before we move on from 1004,
Mhm.
if anybody's paid attention to Representative Cash's bills the last couple of years, she's been trying to get the availability of cameras in schools in some capacity. So 1004, I just wanted to mention there is a grant program for technology built into 1004 that's not directly related, but she did actually get an amendment that would allow schools to utilize that grant program that exists for cameras if they elect to do so. So if you've been tracking Representative Cash's bills on that for the last couple of years, I wanted to mention that because that's kind of a continuation of her desires there.
Yeah, thank you. We're also really excited that House Bill 1029 has passed the House and moves to the Senate. This is a bill primarily around Alzheimer's disease and dementia education. Very big issue. So glad to see that moving forward. There's some conversations about House Bill 1034, which eliminates the use of cellular telephone use. That bill has not moved, but there's a bill similar to it moving in the Senate. As you know, there's probably a lot of conversation taking place around several bills that has to do with SNAP and eligibility, Medicaid redeterminations. We are closely watching and monitoring those and engaging on those as we need to. So I think Senate Bill 275 and Senate Bill 1 are those primary numbers that you need to be watching. Um, There's a large FSSA matters bill that I'm trying to find the bill number, but we always watch the FSSA matters bill, the education matters bill, and the health matters bill, just because those are really kind of big, ominous bills that things get put in there. So we're always watching to see what the impact of any language might be for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Um, and again, we will have a complete list of all of the bills that are still alive and we're monitoring with some type of a description available on Thursday. Again, you'll get that Friday in our legislative memo, and then we'll update it next week when we see you all on Thursday. So I'm going to kind of quit scrolling through this because I think that's kind of the top of mind things. I didn't see any additional, well, I do see an additional question come in. Um, so the question around House Bill 1012. So the process for how a bill becomes a law is, yes, the bill gets heard in committee. Once it passes out of committee, then it either gets recommitted to another committee, which is what happened with House Bill 1012 because it had a large fiscal impact. So that means that it was going to cost the state money to implement that bill. So it passed unanimously out of the Public Health Committee. It got referred to the Ways and Means Committee where it had to be heard and voted out, and that's what did not happen. Unfortunately, as we continued to have conversations with Chairman Thompson about the bill, he expressed concern about the fiscal note. We were trying to be helpful in the way that the state could pay for the implementation of those provisions, saying that it could be paid out of Medicaid dollars that would otherwise revert. Our fiscal leaders in the state very much depend on dollars that revert from programs to the general fund. So that is one way that they continue to build up the general fund and build up the rainy day fund. So whenever that there is a bill that reduces the amount of money that can be reverted and or impacts the general fund, those are the bills that go to either Ways and Means or Appropriations. They kind of get in that heightened level of scrutiny, and it's determined on whether or not that they should move forward. Unfortunately, because of the fiscal note, the cost to implement House Bill 1012, it did not get a hearing and therefore did not pass out of Ways and Means. The deadline to be heard in committee is Monday, so that's why the bill is dead, because we know we're not on Monday's calendar. But as Tom described, just because the bill is dead doesn't mean the issues within that bill are dead. It gets messy as we try to find homes for different languages within the bill, but we'll keep you all up to date as we try to move language into other bills and hopefully see some success on those provisions throughout the session. I'm not seeing any other questions. Hopefully this has been helpful to give you just a little bit more details of what to expect next Thursday. Please don't think you have to have all of the answers when you come in to the State House on Thursday. We are going to be around to help you that day to, if you need help just navigating the State House, if you need help again, writing any of your talking points, we are glad to do all of that with you on Thursday morning. So hopefully the weather cooperates and we are able to have a big crowd that day. We really appreciate your interest in being with us next Thursday. We really appreciate your willingness to communicate with your legislators. This session continues to be a session where Medicaid is getting a lot of conversation. So anything that you can do to build relationships with your legislators is really important and very much appreciated by all of us who are getting together for this day next week. So stay warm, stay safe this weekend. And again, don't hesitate to reach out as you have questions for next week. So we'll see you guys next Thursday. Take care.